Throughout history, war has driven human progress. It has led to the dissolution of oppressive regimes and the founding of new democratic countries. There is no doubt that the world would not be as it is without the many wars waged in the past. War forces people to flee their homes in search of safety, with the latest figures from UN Refugee Agency estimating that around 130 million people are currently displaced due to war. At the end of 2021, of the 89.3 million forcibly displaced people, an estimated 36.5 million, or 41%, are children below 18 years of age. This displacement can be incredibly detrimental to health, with no safe and consistent place to sleep, wash, and shelter from the elements. It also removes a regular source of food and proper nutrition, as well as impacting physical health. War adversely affects the mental health of both those actively involved in conflict and civilians. This is Bitfree's channel, and in this video we are going to talk about one of the hottest topics today. Before you continue watching, please make sure that you have subscribed and hit the notification bell. In this way, you won't lose the upcoming videos. Before we get into the World War, we need to discuss the possibility of World War III. With that said, we will start with Doomsday's Clock and the controversy of prophecies about the last battle of mankind. The Doomsday's Clock is a symbol that indicates the possibility of a global catastrophe brought upon by humanity, and is a metaphor for the human threats posed by uncontrolled scientific and technological advances. In this way, a hypothetical global catastrophe is shown on the clock as midnight approaches, and the extent of the threat to humanity is determined by minutes and seconds to midnight, which is assessed and reviewed each year in June and November with contribution from 15 Nobel Prize winning scientists. The iconic clock has been known as the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists since 1945 by the initiative of Albert Einstein, J. Robert Oppenheimer, and other scientists working on the Manhattan Project. But the initial settings of the clock of the apocalypse was set in 1947 at 7 minutes to midnight. Since then, it has been pushed back 8 times and forwarded 16 times, with a total of 24 sets. The farthest distance from midnight was 17 minutes to midnight in 1991 when the Cold War ended, and the closest was 90 seconds to midnight on January 24, 2023 due to the Russo-Ukrainian War, biological threats, nuclear proliferation, the ongoing climate crisis, state-sponsored disinformation campaigns, and disruptive technologies. In Matthew 24 verses 5 to 8, we are given important signs so that we can discern the approaching end of time. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. For nations will rise against nations, and kingdoms against kingdoms. And there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. The rise of false Christs, the increase of wars, the diseases, and the celestial calamities are the end of time signs. Although we have been warned, we should not be deceived, because these events are just the beginning of our pain, and we are not yet finished. Nostradamus is the world's greatest seer and predictor. He was the astronomer who is said to have correctly predicted the Ukrainian war and apparently predicted the doomsday scenario for 2023. The Frenchman, who accurately predicted some of the world's major events in the 16th century, believed that the current conflict in Eastern Europe could spark a great war. But what happened to Russia further fuels this, as if something big is going to happen. A chilling viral video that shows the popular digital assistant predicting that the Third World War will break out after a Russia invasion of Germany.
Alexa, when will World War III start?
World War III starts on November 23, 2023 at 6:05 p.m., when Russia launches an attack against Germany.
This video circulated on social media shows Alexa's voice assistant being asked to tell when the World War III will begin, and she replied that the World War III would take place on November 23, 2023 at 6:05 p.m. when Russia attacks Germany. Are these all signs of something big happening that we need to pay attention to? Absolutely not. Now let's consider the economic and military factors that might actually lead to World War III. A country that wants to slowly control the world has a high economic power and can easily expand its influence. You might have already guessed what country I'm talking about. China is gradually overtaking US and is becoming the world's largest economy, and it is even predicted that the BRICS countries are going to gradually withdraw the US dollar from their equation and replace it with alternative currency, possibly Chinese yuan. The Chinese are taking over the world's economy. Now in most countries, they have their own banks. They are infiltrating other countries' economies and policies every day. And that's a big challenge for the United States. The Americans are weakening. They are facing big economic problems every day. Bankrupt banks, no expected tax revenues, high inflation and recession. This is truly a calm before the storm. For the Americans intend to defend their right and keep themselves the world's first power. And this conflict has left almost half the world facing the other half. The Westerners who want to keep it that way, and Easterners who want to change the balance of power. Militarily, if we look at the World War III, it is that Eastern countries don't want NATO to be near their borders. The farther away, the more easily Easterners can expand themselves. In fact, everything revolves around the sphere of influence, and no powerful country wants to be restricted or controlled by another superpower. But what regions has the potential of such a conflict? Armageddon is the sign of the battle of the apocalypse, where according to the prophecy of Revelation in the New Testament, the legions will be gathered to face the battle. Armageddon is also generally referred to as the end of the world. But we must step ahead of the prophecy and explore the conceivable regions for starting a war. Robert Farley, a military expert, wrote in an analysis for the 1945 news agency in 2022, in the background of Russo-Ukrainian military dust-up, the world is closer than ever to a major military confrontation since the end of the Cold War. The chances of World War III starting in 2023 are high, and now there are 5 possible scenarios for the new one. The first one is Russian war with Ukraine. The support of Western parties surrounding the Russo-Ukraine war opens the possibility that NATO will be dragged into war, although the probability is extremely low, but a small mistake could be the flames of a major war, and this war is bound to be a nuclear war. Dmitry Medvedev said in his last comment that the danger of World War III was imminent, but that the war would have no winners. This war fought over the influence of NATO power on Ukraine, which borders Russia, and the Russo-Ukrainians battle that wants to secede from Ukraine. The adoption of Ukraine's membership in the North Atlantic Treaty by the West could be turned into a full-scale nuclear war with the arrival of the NATO army and direct conflict. China's confrontation with Taiwan is also considered a second scenario for World War III. Farley emphasizes that the willingness of the United States President Joe Biden's administration to take decisive stances and dangerous rhetoric in defense of Taiwan suggests that Washington is really concerned about the prospect of China attacking Taiwan and preparing for such a situation in some way. Even the Americans announced that they would stand by Taiwan and give them a lot of weapons and ammunitions, because they know that if this battle starts, the Chinese will encircle Taiwan and there is no way to help them and possibly have to enter into a major conflict with China. The third, the Battle of Turkey with Greece. Farley described the Turkish and Greek military conflict as the third possibility of World War III, noting that both countries are NATO members, and in such a situation, disagreements within the North Atlantic Treaty will be heated up. In this war, the Western countries will take the side of Greece, and Turkey, which now has eastward positions, is also supported by Russia and Iran. The war will be drawn into Cyprus and European soil, and as many countries enter the battle, the more it will spread to the rest of the world. Number 4. War of Two Koreas. Everyone is afraid of North Korea because they are under the worst sanctions in the world and they are isolated. Furthermore, they don't care about outcome of a major confrontation as such. Thus, in every moment the world fears that North Korea will launch nuclear attacks on South Korea, Japan, Australia. Even they repeatedly warned the United States of nuclear attack. The US and the European countries will attack North Korea with nuclear warheads. China and Russia, which are close to Korea and support this country, are going to enter this nuclear battle, and in an instant, hundreds of nuclear missiles fall on radar screens heading towards their targets. Number 5. India's war with China. After the Korean War, there is still a high probability of war between India and China over the Himalayan mountains, though there are other excuses involved. For instance, India's asylum in 1959 to the 14th Dalai Lama, which sparked a war between India and the People's Republic of China in 1962. Even though the Indians lost the battle, the Chinese declared armistice, but the ashes of this event are always too hot for another battle. Apart from these 5, we want to add more to better understand the tension in the world with the possibility of an apocalyptic battle. Another highly probable military confrontation could befall between Iran and Israel that has been going on for over 40 years. In a blink of an eye, the fire of this war will bring the whole world into a nuclear war. Since Israel has made sure that Iran possesses nuclear bomb and has always been on the path of sabotaging Iran's nuclear facilities, Iran, on the other hand, has also threatened to destroy Israel. Therefore, the possibility of a full-out clash is very high. This will get other countries to fight in support of Iran and Israel. Iran's war with United States over nuclear program is for sure another possibility of a major world war. The proxy conflicts of Iranian forces and US military in the Middle East, as well as Iranian interferences and influence in South America and African countries, has left the US no choice but to stop Iran. The India's war with Pakistan. This war, known as the Kashmir conflict, is over the Kashmir region between India, Pakistan, and China, which is provoking the possibility of a nuclear conflict by inciting one of the 3 countries. Considering the fact that these all 3 countries have hundreds of nukes in their arsenal, the dispute could inevitably end with a catastrophic war. The bottom line is that the world has limited resources. This fact proposes the shadow government conspiracy theory that their power goes beyond the governments. According to the theory, this shadow government is planning to reduce the world's population as they don't want these resources be consumed for all humans, but according to the economist Nouriel Roubini, phenomena such as climate changes, pandemics, and artificial intelligence could possibly trigger World War III. He points out how climate change is destroying the human environment and forcing people to leave their habitats. Almost all parts of the world need to be deserted as the result of water shortage. This lack of water eventually will lead to global quarrel over water supplies. There are at least 12,000 nuclear warheads in the world, and out of this, US and Russia possesses almost 11,000 combined. We also need to add China, India, Pakistan, France, Britain, Israel, and North Korea to the list. This is beyond anyone if a nuclear confrontation initiates. Einstein once said, "I know not with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones." Will there really be a war of this magnitude to permanently wipe out the human race off the face of the earth? If so, the battle will probably kill more than 60 to 70% of the world's population. Well, our video ends here. I hope we will never get to that. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell.